Awesome. Well, welcome to Inside Copy and Art, the podcast. We're changing things up a little bit today. We have a guest with us who we have some good experience with on the client side, who is excitingly doing some things that are additive to that long career, but also interesting to us from a high performance perspective. So we'd like to welcome Aaron Salko, who's a regional sales manager at Stephen Gould, also an author of a book, here with us today. So welcome, Aaron. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Awesome. So if you're listening to the audio version, I'll give you a heads up. It's Elena Rivera-Cheek here, the founder and Chief Creative Officer at Copy and Art.
Christina Reyes, SVP Creative Director.
Pam Curlin, VP Client Experience.
Awesome. So we have a full team here with Aaron, and while we've kind of crossed paths with him in some of our internal training business, that's not actually the reason why he's here today. We're here to talk about something else.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes. I had to kind of create a little bit of a hook. So before we start about talking about your very interesting book, Aaron, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience, we know a little bit, but tell the audience kind of a little bit about your career, what you do, what you've done, and why you're here today.
Sure. Again, I appreciate you guys having me. So I consider myself more of a generalist because of the crazy career path my life has taken me. I did start out, I was raised in the restaurant business, which I believe gave a lot of us the social skills that you need, to survive in business. But then I went into college and I couldn't really find my way. And it was a long path of figuring out what I wanted to do and what I was passionate about. And I knew that I wanted to be in some sort of social, helping others type of capacity. And I went into physical therapy. I was sports medicine and I was a personal trainer, and then I went to physical therapy. And I actually went through an associate's degree in physical therapy, which made me a physical therapist assistant, which allowed me to really check out the field and see if it was something that was it. Now, this is 7 years of college, by the way, so I'm like a super duper senior at the time.
You were an expert in college.
I was expert in college.
Expert undergrad.
Yeah, it was unbelievable experience. Basically, I got out of physical therapy. I was doing rotations in hospitals, and healthcare had really taken a tough twist, and people were fighting for hours, and it just wasn't what I thought it was. And, part of what really drove me was, I wanted to be successful, not just monetarily, but also in my career. And the monetary part did come up. And they said, you'll be able to make X by the time you're 40. And I said, oh boy, that's not going to be enough to suit what I truly desire to do. And so my buddy, who I shared a shore house with, was working for Stephen Gould. And he was telling me about this career, and he's like, all we do is we sell, we're this global packaging company, and we have all these access to manufacturing, and it's just this unbelievable career path, and it's an entrepreneurial-based career path, and it's full commission, so, if you work hard enough, you can attain whatever you want. And I said, that's what I want. And so 20 years later, here I am. When I started in the South Jersey office. I knew that I always wanted to be in management. I was captains of my sports teams I played. I was managing restaurants, and I really enjoyed helping people get to that next level and training and teaching. And so when I interviewed for Stephen Gould, I said, "What's the path to management?" And this was in the interview, and they said, "Well, basically a manager has to retire or a new territory has to be open." And my mind immediately went to Pittsburgh. I said, I know the territory that I'm in, and we don't have any representation out there. I'm going to go develop Pittsburgh, and that's going to be my entry point to management. So in the first 3 years of my career, I began to drive 5 hours and 33 minutes exactly from door to door from New Jersey to Pittsburgh, and I began to set the office up out there and developed a portfolio that could support myself, developed a territory, and then they gave me the opportunity at management in Pittsburgh. And then from there, we did really well, but there was a management change that was happening in the Whippany location, which is our corporate headquarters, but it's also a very large sales office. And they asked me to come back and take that role. And that's where I've been ever since. And my region and my influence and my sphere of influence, I should say, has grown. So now I am a regional manager of Pittsburgh, of Cleveland. I directly manage the Whippany office, and also now the White Plains, or Rybrook, I should say, office that's to be coming in November 1st.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we have the space?
Yeah.
We have the space.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yes. So that was my career. And what I did for the organization was I basically, and I say this facetiously, is I trained CEOs, because every agent who steps into Stephen Gould really opens up their own portfolio and runs their own business. And so they really have to have that CEO mindset of I have ownership, and I have to be able to execute on a daily basis. I've got to develop my organization. I've got to even hire people for my team, and then I've got to grow the business. And so it was a tough challenge, because I was 5 years in when I became manager, and I knew what I knew that got me to the point of my portfolio growth. And then I had to develop systems to help others understand what my process was. And I didn't do it great in the beginning. I was very, here's my engine, everybody keep up. And I learned very fast that is not the way to make friends. Yeah. So I had to take a step back and begin to break down my processes and begin to teach and begin to lay it out so that everybody could understand it and begin to practice it themselves. And so that's how this all started. And I was always documenting these things, because when they worked, I wanted to remember that it worked so I can give it to other people and other agents. And so with that came a lot of training, a lot of testing, a lot of reading. I am completely self-taught in the business world. I did not graduate with an MBA. I did not go to business school. But I read more books than I could probably imagine on the subjects. So,
Who are some of the mentors that have helped you in your path to kind of building your little empire?
Yeah. So mentorship's a tough thing for me.
Okay.
And my number one mentor, and it was my father. He had passed away when I was 17, but he was a psychologist. And so he would play the Jedi mind tricks on me all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that got me really interested in psychology. I can't even believe I didn't have the wherewithal to say, you know what, I should just go into psychology in college.
We knew it had to be in there somewhere.
Oh, man.
There was
As
some
we
right.
talked about this, we knew it was there.
I mean, I am so fascinated by the way we operate as humans. It's unbelievable. But yeah, one of my first mentors. And then along the way, there were coaches. It was really 2 years ago where I continued to search for mentorship. I had never really found that one person to latch onto that really was a guide.
Okay.
I took a lot from everybody, and I tried to give a lot to everybody too. But mentorship was really tough, and I realized like 2 years ago that maybe, we all don't have mentors. Maybe mentorship is something that we strive for, but isn't realistic. When it comes to, when we look for a mentor, what do we want? We want somebody to guide us in what? It's not like I can say I need a mentor for this. You're looking for really the grand poobah of mentors, like that can guide you through life. I mean, who is that? Can anybody have that title? And so I think that's where my mentorship idea sort of ended. But there's been a lot of people who have influenced me. A lot of people have given me a lot of help along the way. Too many to mention.
Awesome.
Yep.
So tell us about the 9th Stratum. Give us a
boy.
little teaser on what you're doing here.
Okay. So the 9th Stratum is a concept that I began to develop many years ago as I began to look at high performance. Because again, my job was to seek out high potentials in individuals who wanted to work for our company. And then I had to sort of gauge what their levels were of being able to not only learn, but also apply. And then what's that drive look like? What's their perseverance look like? All these things you have to sort of begin to break down. The search for high performers or high potentials was always there. And then once you had that one or two high potentials, they're very rare, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
we know.
You know, it's like, I wish there was like a high potential story. Be like, I want that one.
Yeah, I want that one.
Yeah,
I would kind of cut you in line if you could find that. Please
Yeah.
call me.
So once you had, the high potentials, you better be ready because they're going to challenge the hell out of you. And if you're not ready to challenge them on a daily basis, you're wasting their time and you're wasting their talent. I began to formulate this concept of what does that look like? Because, people have told me through my life that I'm a high performer. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. Is there a trophy that comes with that? Or like, what does that give me? And I realized that it's a very, generalized term that society uses for people that are able to do things better than they did yesterday, basically. They're always progressing themselves. And so that's where the concept came to fruition. It was, okay, how do we identify high performance? Is there a way that we can, put some metrics to it and really see what this is about? And so I began to look at all of the people I've been engaged with my entire life and career and began to sort of mentally break down their, I call them performance-based skills and attributes because I hate the term soft skills. There's nothing soft
About soft skills.
about soft skills.
No.
And I guarantee 1 million people have said that before. Well, I'm saying it again because it's true.
Yes.
And so when I began to break down these performance-based skills and attributes, we began to define it a little bit. And I realized that the term the ninth stratum really is a level of work. It's a level of accomplishment. It's a level of study. It's a daily level of discipline and behavior that people go through in order to hit their 10th stratum. And the 10th stratum I define as the goals, the achievements, the promotions, the gold medals if you're an Olympic athlete, the championships you win if you're doing something in sports. I played sports all my life, so that's another driver of what this is. We don't, nobody really lives in the 10th because that means it's perfection, and perfection isn't something that is real. When people say they're a perfectionist, I'm like, good for you.
Well, the other thing is, the minute you hit a goal, another one has to replace it.
Right.
Right? So you're constantly.
Always.
Going between the 9th and 10th, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're lucky and if you're one of those, right?
Right,
Yes.
right, and that's the challenge, So you take all these behaviors and all these skill sets, and you say, okay, what levels are you at in each of them? And there's we've identified so far 43 to 45.
So can you just give us an example of some of those skill sets?
Composure.
Okay.
Right? You wouldn't think about that.
No.
But how many times have you been in a meeting where somebody just flies off the handle, or you go, oh my God, the client's mad, and all this stuff, and everybody goes into panic mode. But there's always that one person that goes, whoa, time out. Everybody calm down. Nobody died. Did anybody die? No, nobody's dead.
Right.
Okay, we can figure this out. So there's all these skills that equal performance, and when you look at these levels that we go through, we're not all 9s on every attribute of or skill set of performance. There's some that we have to work on. There's others that we're really good at. And so the goal is that, the elite business people, the elite athletes, if you look at their lives and you look at how they train, you look at how they behave on a daily basis, they live in this 9th stratum. And they hold a level of discipline, of routine, of nutrition and daily living. And it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or
responsibility.
Responsibility, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows them to achieve those 10s more frequently than most. And that's where you want to take high potentials and get them into that stratum and let them live and work there and let them understand what that looks like. Because I don't think everybody understands what that looks like. It's hard, and it's self-accountability to a level that many people don't know about. That's the concept of the 9th stratum. So it's not fully developed yet, but I'm getting to the 85 to 90% mark right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when someone comes into your sales organization, how long does it take you to identify someone as a high performer? I know there are multiple different attributes, but what are some key ones that are kind of flares right off the bat?
Yeah, I think we've all done interviews, right? And I was really bad at interviewing, and we were really bad at recruiting in the beginning. So I was, the interviews were, hey, my cousin Joey thinks he can sell packaging. You want to meet him? And Joey'd come in and he'd be this like boisterous individual, he'd be popping around the office and making you laugh, and you'd be like, yeah, I want him on my team. And you figure out Joey can't organize himself out of a paper bag. He doesn't know how to type, His written dialogue is absolutely horrible. And you're going, Joey is not a high performer. And then, you got to try to back then you had to try to dig Joey out of the weeds and train him to be higher. So you begin to really identify some of these attributes of performance or high potentials. And the one thing that really strikes me is their ability to come to the table in a very confident manner. And they usually come to the table having done something that you didn't ask them to do. And you're going, oh, okay, I see something there. There's a little glimpse. They're very well spoken. They've continued their education, or they're always doing something that forwards their progress. Because if you ask them, so what do you like to do on the weekends? And they say, well, I just tried to learn how to play the violin. Okay, why? Well, because I wanted to. Okay, good. That's a good thing. Or I'm reading these books and I'm trying to apply what I'm learning. Application's a big one too. When you say you teach something and all of a sudden they're looking to apply it. It's not like, oh, I'll just apply it when it comes around. It's like, I'm going to go do this right now. I'm going to go figure this out. So the application part is big. And there's more. There's way more. But there's some glimmers of what we look for.
Do you feel like people who are categorized as not high performers, let's say our mediocre bunch,
Sure.
which probably makes up 80% of the population or more, can they become high performers? Do you feel like some of this is innate, meaning you're born with it, or do you feel like people can make a decision that they're done being mediocre and they want to hit that 9th or 10th stratum?
Yeah, you said it. You hit the nail on the head. It's the mindset change of you either want it or you don't want it. A lot of the high performers were either raised in environments that perpetuated performance. Their parents were very successful, and the parents pushed them to be at levels through their education, through whatever they might be doing. And then there is the ones who became high potentials and high performers out of necessity and out of need. I mean, sometimes out of survival, because they were raised in such low performing environments that they looked at that and had the realization, and it was like, this is not what I want to do. That was part of me a little bit too. I came from a very small town. It was not an affluent town at all. And I saw, relatives and friends who would graduate and get stuck there. And, they're going to the same bars and the same gyms and they do the same job. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, I don't want that, And that's the realization, that's the mindset. So when you have that realization, I think a lot of low performers or people who, I don't want to call anybody a low performer because everybody has the potential. It's more or less people who realize the desire that they have to want more, to achieve more, and they don't necessarily know the pathway to do it. And if they have good coaches, if they have desire, they'll figure out that way to get there. They'll come to the table and they'll go pick up a book. They'll go learn something. So I think everybody has the potential. That day when they go, I'm done with this. I need to get to the next level. I need to, impact my future trajectory for success. Because if I don't, I'm going to be that guy or that girl I don't want to be that person. Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting because you talk about mindset, and I looked at like the different categories that you had here for what high performers are. And, you know, for us, aptitude, we often say like aptitude and attitude, those are like the key factors of success. So it's a technical side, but it's also the mentality that you're bringing. Can I do this? Am I willing to like overcome this challenge? Are there any of these categories that you think are a little more challenging for a high performer or for people on average?
Yeah, in the intellect part, basically, you know, the intellect part is really tough because that you can say, oh, it's innate. The one thing that I tried to accomplish here, just to back up 1 second, with all the categories of performance, is I've done a lot of research, and I've gotten a lot of feedback, and I've seen it live myself, that these categories are specifically able to be trained for. So nothing that I'm putting down here, you can't say, somebody can't say, I don't have that.
That's not me.
Yeah, that's not me. I mean, even creativity. You know, you can actually train yourself to be creative. You know, so to answer your question, some of the hardest ones I believe, you know, in the beginning are the drive. You know, because you either again wake up and say, I'm going to do this no matter what, and drive is hard to get started. The perseverance. A lot of people have trouble getting up once they get knocked down, especially if they get knocked down a couple, you know, thousand times. Yeah,
Sure.
you know, you know, I think those are the two ones that stand out for me as really challenging to get around. But again, they're trainable.
So you actually talked about getting knocked down, which I think was a significant part of the concept that you're developing. Can you tell us a little bit about the role of failure? Was it maybe a time that you failed that was a precipitous for this concept? How does that play into the whole achievement and high performance? Did I just ask a loaded question?
We have to dig deep here, Aaron.
It's awesome. You know, failure's my greatest friend. You know, even though it's a love-hate relationship, but I think the fear of failure drives performance more than anything. When you look at high performers, and you know, even myself, you know, I was always afraid to fail. But when I did fail, I knew that I would never do that same mistake again because the failure was an education. You learn from, everybody says you learn from your failures. It's so true. I don't know why more people don't want to fail in the beginning.
I hate the word failure because it implies something bad happened.
Yeah.
And really, depending on your mindset, my personal philosophy is if I'm not failing, I'm probably not trying hard enough and I'm staying in my comfort zone. I'm staying where I know I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
Where if I attempt something crazy, like I started this new gym, Orange Theory, and it's don't laugh at me. You should
No,
see
I'm not.
me. I am the slowest.
I don't want to do Orange Theory.
I am the slowest by far on row and tread and all the things. But I fight. Like, you know, when the coaches want to give me some feedback, they're like, way to stay with it, Elena.
Yeah.
I'm like, good. That's my superpower, is staying with it. But like, personally, I need to look like the fool before I can be the master. So this brings me to, like, I like Jordan Peterson too, not everything he says or everything he believes, but one of the things he adopts is this idea of personal responsibility. And he says, you know, if people want to change their life, like, why don't we start with responsibility? And he's like, you want to start somewhere simple? Clean your room. And he goes, there's like 5, 6 sections of your room you don't look at because you know it's like a pile of papers here or some dusty cords over here. And he's like, start where you are. Like Tony Robbins, I also like, he goes, throw a rock, wherever it lands, start there. Yeah. Because sometimes it's the motivation to start. What role do you feel like personal responsibility has in the achievement of any kind of performance metrics?
The first chapter of the book is the most basic chapter. And it talks about just developing, you know, the way you show up, building a routine in the way you show up, the way you get ready every morning. You know, and it seems silly. You know, it seems like, oh, you know, I just throw on a T-shirt and, you know, throw on my suit and whatever. But there's a process to it. And you can get really good at it to where when you show up, people notice you. And when you get noticed, people engage you. When people engage you, opportunities, sure. Opportunities come to light. You know, there's a whole thing, and it's the most simplest thing of just getting ready. I love what you said about the part in your room because the one section or the one chapter which has a little blurb about organization. It's all about how you organize your life and how you organize your calendar and how you stay, consistent with organization. But I say, take a look at your sock drawer. You can really tell the level of somebody's organization by looking at how they organize their socks.
Are they paired? Are they not?
Yeah.
Mine were not paired in college, and I didn't care if they were mismatched. But today, color coded.
Mine are organized.
Oh, I know.
Now, are you an organized person?
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest identifiers of high potentials or high performers is they're never satisfied. They're always looking at, like, how can I have done that better? They could have won, any kind of award, and they're like, yeah, I did it. How do I do it again? How do I do it better than I did it? How do I stay on top? But I want to go back just to the sock drawer. Do yourselves a favor. And when you identify somebody and you're like, you want to see what their organization's like, ask them about their sock drawer.
Just tell them to snap a picture of it.
It's
Can you give me
unbelievable.
24 hours? Can you give me 24 hours?
She's like, wait, my socks on? You're going to want a picture?
I never thought so much about his
Well, it's the sock drawer. It's so funny and it's so silly because it's something that you see every morning.
Sure.
Right? You open it up and it's either unbelievably organized and color coded, or it's like mine. Like I'm like a Stratum 7 in organization. I'm like, I organize, but I'm not like super, crazy organized. Although I like my kitchen very organized, so that's the one thing, But in my sock drawer, they're all like sort of together, paired up, but they're just like thrown in there. There's no rows or anything like that.
Right. But how much time could you save every day if, like, it was organized in a way? Like, I think about organization in terms of efficiency too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make a lot of decisions. I want to be able to open the drawer and know I'm going to a business meeting. Here's where my stockings are. I'm going to go to the gym. Here's where my Nike socks are. And if I can just open the drawer and not have to think about that, that's one less decision.
Yeah.
I have to make here. That's why I wear black all the time. And if you let me, I'd wear the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
I could eat the same thing every day because I save that decision-making power for the things that are going to affect kind of the major, kind of decisions in life, I think.
That was a classic character trait of Steve Jobs. He wore the same thing every day. Just because he's like, I don't need to think about what I want to wear. Then you have me, who takes like 45 minutes to get ready in the morning.
Well, you're very well dressed, I must say. For the people who are on audio only, watch the video. Well, very funny. Tell them about our Zoom etiquette with respect to attire during the pandemic, since we just came through that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I think it says a lot about you and your organization and how you kind of...
I love this
So
conversation.
we actually believe in having everyone on video. On video, first of all. Let's not just do audio. Let's see each other. Let's connect. But also dressing as you would if you're coming to the office.
I love that.
Right? It sets the tone for the day.
Christina, you might have hit my favorite. That was the favorite thing I've ever heard. I'm so happy you said that.
Our clients made fun of
I
this
believe
quite
it.
a bit.
Let 'em.
And, we were just like, no. And you act and behave differently when you present yourself in your best light at all times. And that's, I said, we're on Zoom, we're home. You're at work.
Right. What's different? It doesn't matter if we're in the same room or if you're on a video screen. What's
Right.
different? I'm showing up for you because I respect you.
Exactly.
Sure.
And I'm dressing for you.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to what you were saying before, right? If you get dressed in the morning in a way, people notice you, they want to engage you, and it's kind of that same mentality.
And that changes your mindset. That
Yes.
changes your energy with how you're dealing with the day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's a psychological advantage that it gives you, which is called enclothed cognition. And basically, the way you dress sets your mindset for how you operate. And so when you put your gym clothes on, your mindset changes to, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to have a great workout. Like, this is what I'm doing. When you dress for business or dress for work, your mindset changes. You're not home in your pajamas. You're not like lounging around the house. You're ready for business, and it's a twist. Until the pandemic stuck us at home, I wore a suit every day because it did something to me. It's like going on the field with your uniform on. It's like stepping onto into an athletic field with your pads.
Sure.
I always said to a lot of my agents, does a football player go on the field without his helmet? No. It'd be, number one, they can't. Number two, they'd probably get hurt.
Wouldn't be safe.
Wouldn't be safe. And so, but when they put that helmet on, they know they're going into that field of battle, and they know they're ready for something. When you put your suit on, or you dress for the occasion, you know you're going somewhere, and mentally it changes the way you think and operate.
So you were very successful in this, right? And I'm going to let you in on a secret since you're on our podcast. You agreed to be here. The first time we met you, we may have walked out of your office and said, A, wow, well dressed, and B, did you check out the Stephen Gould socks? That
It is a story.
you
to
sat
this day.
down, and I'm like, and of course we're hyper aware of brand, and I see like the icon for Stephen Gould, and I'm like, this man is wearing branded socks.
We looked
He's
at
our
each other,
people.
and we didn't speak a word. We were like, we're gonna have to do that for Copy and Aaron.
We have all the swag. We didn't have the socks.
Right.
So no, but I think that it makes you a part of what you're doing, and it makes what you're doing a part of who you are.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about this book because it's so interesting to me. If you had to choose between the desired outcome for this book being having high performers identify and be able to kind of put words around high performance and who they are, or being a model or workbook or guide or roadmap for an average Joe trying to be a high performer, which one would you choose?
I would want to default to the average Joe, but truthfully, it's the way I'm structuring it, the way I'm writing it is for the current high potential or high performer to reassess and reevaluate what they're doing, because there's always a way you can do things better. And I'm going to throw some suggestions out there. I'm going to give you some of the techniques I've used, the techniques I've taught that I know are working and are continuously working to improve people. But yeah, my goal with this whole thing is I want to affect people on a global scale. Like, I'm not a gifts guy. My wife made me read the 7 love languages.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, Lauren. And the realization from that was I seek acknowledgement, and I seek acknowledgement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody, and it's happened to me many times in my career, when I watch my agents and they develop and they buy their first house, or they just do something that they know they would normally not have the opportunity to do given the situation they might have been in if they didn't come to work.
Yeah, they hit some milestone that
Yeah.
affected their life.
And they've all come back and they've said, you changed my trajectory, you changed my life, and and the thank yous are the big wins for me. I think we can all go out and make money anytime we want, but to get recognition in affecting somebody's life to where they live a better life, or they live a more they have more clarity in life, and they have more passion in what they're doing. That's the magic that I can't even put into words.
We're so excited about this. I mean, I don't know if you know this. You know a little bit about my some of the work we do with the Tony Robbins organization around performance and business mastery and all that stuff. We have a business results coach that actually takes some of those learnings and brings them into the agency for everybody. And one of the things I love about some of those learnings and the realization of some of this work that you're doing here too is when you affect any part of your life, you affect every part of your life. And Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' mentor that got him started on his journey. And he says, for anything to change, you have to change. And we bring it to our agency here because if you affect any part of your life in a positive way and accept the responsibility and work hard and kind of can be agile and get up when you fall, you're going to be better at work. You're going to be better at home, though. You're going to be better in your relationships with your children if you have children. And so that's one of the most exciting parts is we try to compartmentalize everything, but actually everything affects everything. Right. So tell me a little bit about how you feel like you can help high performers who might be doing maybe, let's say, really well, let's say at work with you. What do you do, or how do you influence the other sides of, right? Because if they have a terrible marriage, but they're a really good salesperson, that might affect like their at home might affect their business. How do you kind of hit both sides of it?
Yeah, some of the skills and attributes we train for are basically, again, I'll go back to the soft skills, but they're life skills. How are you communicating on a daily basis? Not just with people you work with, people, your family. And trust me, I catch myself all the time, in bad behavior of like, I teach this and I just did this. Come on, Aaron, that was just dumb.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
being
Self-awareness,
self-aware
yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, when you know.
Yeah, my wife will go like, "Did you read chapter 7?"
Yeah.
Like that.
I think you should read
Yeah.
chapter 7.
Yeah.
No.
But it goes back to when you have the home life. There's a part of let me step back. One of the main things I've always found that's really beneficial in those buckets, right, that you just talked about, of like, okay, I'm behaving really well here at work, but then I get home and I'm a different person, right?
Okay.
And sometimes that's okay. You have to be a little bit different. But when I was young, and I would step onto a baseball field. Baseball was my sport. And I'd be sitting there, I'd be watching the birds and, look at the butterflies, my sneakers untied, and, a ball would be hit my way and I'd miss it or something. And I'm like, all right. My dad, again, the psychologist, took me aside one day and he said to me, Aaron, you see that line there? And I said, yeah. He goes, what's that line? I said, that's the out of bounds line. He said, what does that mean when you cross it? Well, I'm playing. I'm in the game. And he goes, exactly. He said, that line is now your cue. When you cross that line, you become an athlete. You're no longer a bystander. And he said, what that means is you have to pay attention all the time. You're on from the moment you cross that line till the moment you cross over the line. After you cross the line, you can do whatever you want. You go over that line onto the field of play, you are performing a duty as an athlete. I said, all right, got it. I did it. And
Beautiful
yeah.
lesson.
Saying,
Yeah.
I might bring that into my own life.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and you can, that translated to me, that was at a very young age, I realized, okay, that's a visual cue. I didn't call it a visual cue, but I just realized what it was. And I started using it for anything I was walking into. Mm-hmm. So one of the main things I use are doorways. I don't know if you saw before I walked into this room, I basically stood there for about 5 seconds, looked at the doorway. It's like, okay, go in, right? What the visual cue, it's a transition. You don't know who's on the other side of that room. Sometimes you do. So you've got to be, it's about the way you show up. You've got to be ready to walk through every door and be ready for the people and be effective for the people that are on the other side of that door. And so you can't carry baggage from one room to another. Same applies at home. So this is that home lesson. I'll go through the garage door, and before I get out of my car, I'll look at the entranceway to my house, and I'll say, okay, now you're dad, now you're husband, and that sometimes works until the phone rings about 17
But that's
times.
a really good, so
Yeah.
this is my anchor. It was a symbol for business, and my coach on the personal side, I have a business coach, I have plenty of coaches. But anyway, my coach on the personal side was like, before you walk through the door, look at your ring. And just remember, like, the head of copy and art is not walking into that house.
Right.
Your kids don't need that, Elena. Your kids need mom. Your husband needs just his wife, Elena. And that doesn't, we're all a lot of things, right? I'm not just one person. Personality-wise, but sometimes, I would come home and I'd tell my coach, she's like, "What do you want to talk about?" Like, I'd come home and I'm a boss here and I want to be a boss there. It's like, you're not a boss there. I'm like, I know I'm not a boss there and I don't want to be a boss there. And it's like, if you don't want to be a boss there, or you just have to kind of turn off that approach because this is hard. Life is hard, business is hard, and sometimes one person has to show up here and you have to mentally, I love the doorway thing.
Yeah.
She's like, look at the ring, know that is now off, and you are now walking into your home.
Yeah.
And now you're mom and wife. And that's maybe a different angle.
It's still about being your best self, right?
Sure.
At work, you're best boss. At home, you're best mom. So it's finding your true authentic self and really be trying to be that best, not necessarily picking up the characteristics from another part of you.
exactly. And but it's so hard. You could be coming from a catastrophic business event and walking into a new client meeting.
Yeah.
Guess what? If you're walking in catastrophic mode, that
You're
client's
gonna make this catastrophic.
That client's going to pick up on that, and they're going to be like, they weren't focused. Something was off.
Sure.
I'm so curious how you translate these messages or learnings to your team. Do you have special one-on-one meetings? Is it how do you pass these along?
Yeah.
Tactically, I'm just curious how you pass them along, because they're so informative, and even just that door symbolism or any of the other, what may even seem small to you, are so powerful, and I'm just curious how you kind of communicate that to them.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. There are some where it's one-on-one where I just notice a deficiency or I notice a struggle going on, and I'll have those deep one-on-one conversations where I'll say, hey, try this, or I see this happening, why don't you do this and see if it works for you. I can only suggest things. I'm not, I can't demand they do it. It's not the way I like to operate at all, but it's one of these things where there's one-on-ones, but then I do, large sales strategy sessions, and I've done virtual ones, where I have my sales strategy team or my sales team live in the Whippany office, but yet my Cleveland team's on virtual and my Pittsburgh team's on virtual. And I try to do very large group learning sessions.
That's cool.
But I keep it, and this is part of what we're doing, what I'm doing here with the book is I want to keep it simple and easy to apply. So what I give in technique or what I teach is something that they can automatically go out and use tomorrow or today. So I try to really, it's not, and then the higher performers, they get some of the more complex things, that are important, such as small talk when you go into a client meeting. Well, guess what? Small talk isn't just there to find out how their commute is in the morning. It's there to discover what their baselines look like when they're telling you, when they're in a comfortable conversation.
Position, so you can interpret
so when you
deviations.
Yes.
Right.
And so that's a little bit more complex, and that's not for first year salesperson, but
Right.
some of the seasoned people, they can use that.
Sure. So is there anything else about the ninth stratum that you would like our audience to know about? We're going to talk to you, of course, because you know who we are. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the marketing of the book and what your plans are there and how you're going to get the word out so that people can actually find the book, right? Because it's like, you need to let people know.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that maybe we didn't uncover yet that you'd like the audience to know about the book?
Well, I'm a first-time writer, so when you read my book, please go easy. I've discovered that there's a whole process to writing, and I'm actually have to go back to chapter 1, 2, and 3 and rewrite it because my style has changed. I do have an editor who's he worked for one of the big publishers for years, and I love feedback. I don't get it enough. And he is just so like, you got to stop repeating yourself.
Aww.
Got it.
That's your job.
Done. Yeah.
Just cut it out. That's
okay, done. He's really good, and he's really good with feedback, and he's coached me along and helped me develop my writing style and helped me find my writing style. So that's one thing I want you to know about the book. It's a simple thing. The other thing about the book is just it's a guide, and it's coming from my experiences. There's been a ton of research put into it. I'm not winging anything in this thing. It would be a disservice to those who read it. And 100% of it is applicable to life and performance. And you can apply it as well. It's something that you can read and you can say, okay, I can make this adjustment. But it is something that you have to either be on that pathway or desire to be on that pathway for performance. And it is for every level. I mean, there's a little talk about business, but it's very generalized. It's for the athlete, it's for the lawyer, it's for the doctor, it's for whoever wants to be better than they were yesterday. So I'm excited to get it out. I'm only on chapter 8. I still have the 9th chapter to do. And then there's this whole process which I know nothing about, which comes with editing. So I don't know if it'll be out by the end of this year, but I'm hoping that I'll get it out beginning of 2022. And it's one of these things where it's going to go, and I'm going to go, did that.
Yeah.
Bucket list, done.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So, marketing, are we self-publishing? Do we know yet? What are your thoughts for getting the word out? So you have a network that, of course, you will leverage, I'm sure.
Yep.
But what else are you planning to do from a communication standpoint so that people get to know what you did?
That's a great question. I'm learning a little bit in bucketfuls about the publishing industry, and it's a very challenging industry because it's hard when you don't know something. So I'm really leaning on a lot of people who have experience in it. I've talked to 3 different people who I've actually engaged as for some of the information for the book as far as like experts in fields of industry, and they've written their own books and they've given me some good guidance on it. But I think it'll be a self-publish because there's a lot of content in the book that is proprietary, and I've developed it, and I understand that the publishing industry sort of takes those rights once they say we're going to publish it, we're going to market it, we're going to get it out to things. So I think I have to default to self-publishing. So there's that. I have a very good friend who works in PR, and she's given me some good information about like what to do there. But right now, I'm not heavy into the social.
That's why you're friends with us.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't have a Facebook page. I'm not a very private. Well, I'm a very private person. I don't like to put images out there that the whole world can see.
Sure.
Of my family and where I go and things I do. So I have to sort of ease into that and get used to, I guess, that. But the book should carry itself. I do not want to be a face for this thing. If I have to go and do engagements for it, absolutely. But it's not me who is going to make the person reading the book successful. It's really them, and I don't want to be looked at as like the face of this whole thing.
But you have a goal. You're a high performer. High performers don't typically start endeavors without end desired outcomes. What's your goal here?
The goal is I want to take this nationally. I think there's more to this. I think that there's a perfect example. HR, right? You get your performance reviews, and they say, I'll pick on you, Pam.
Pick on Pam. I like this.
Pam,
I like where this is going, Aaron.
Pam, your sock drawer is not. Your organization skills are just not there, right? We want you to improve your organization skills. Yeah. Take a picture of your sock drawer, please. Yeah. Your organization skills are just not there, and so we really need you to improve there. And the employee goes, "Okay, great. Somebody going to show me how the hell to do that?"
Right.
No, and there's a no behind that. Because organizations don't have the ability or the capacity to focus train, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you need to improve organization. Here, Pam, go read a book. Great. Okay, it's guided learning. That's all right. But what's there? What's out there? What can be developed that Pam can then go, okay, I can go to this space and I can learn techniques to improve my organization. And then the organization gets feedback on Pam's accomplishments of working in that space and application of new organization skills. That's the magic of the next steps of this thing. And because the PIPs that organizations hand out in the yearly reviews, I'm sure they're great. I'm sure there's a lot of science behind them. I'm sure there's been a lot of work put into them. But in the end, every HR professional that I've talked to and every CEO that I've engaged, they look at this and they go, no, we just sort of, tell them, here's some...
What's wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong? And I don't know, here's a podcast or a video to go watch or something like that. And you really need to work on this though, because we can't promote you if you're deficient.
Lacking here, sure.
Yeah. And the employee's going, man, I wish my employer would take more interest in my development.
And there's no way to achieve success, right? Because you don't really know what their end game is. Yeah.
And just for the folks on the podcast that don't know, a PIP is a performance improvement plan, or a PIP. Yep. That's what you get put on when sometimes right before you're going to get let go, to let you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a genuine endeavor to get you to a place where you can succeed in your role.
Yeah. And in organizations, what do they want? They want higher output, high functioning teams, high performing employees. Mm-hmm. Well, they bring in somebody and they say, okay, we're going to train you on, today we're going to train you on, emotional intelligence. And they bring emotional intelligence coach in. And maybe 70% of that room needs it, 30% don't. They do generalized training. And the generalized training isn't for everybody. So I believe that there is a avenue for more focused training and an ability to bring that to organizations and just the general public itself to say, I want to be better in this. I've been told I'm not great here. Who can train me? Who can do this? And as I said, all these things are you can train for them. Everybody thinks that a lot of these skills are innate, and they're not. There are processes that you have to go through, and sometimes some are tougher than others, but everything can be trained for that I've been studying and I've been putting out there. So
that's exciting, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
We are too.
So it's a long road.
Well, congratulations on what you've accomplished so far. I mean, quite the undertaking, and it sounds like you are high performing. So
yeah, it feels like you're almost projecting where this could go.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of, it's a book, but it goes into something that could be more like organizational training. Mm-hmm. I think, it makes me think of, I love Pareto's distribution. And the more I apply it or look at kind of areas of business, the more I see that there is like this 20% that affects 80% of change or activity or success. And if organizations can take a look at, let's say, the 20% of high performers in their organization that are affecting the most change, and maybe even making a simple investment of kind of stronger training around those high performers, how much more could they do in business, right? If there was some structured high performance training, right? Because the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. So it's always the underperformer or the person who's lacking who gets all of this HR attention. But like maybe you can stand for a shift organizationally where like we're all about high performance here at Copy and Art. And even though we're an ad agency, I mean, we do a lot of trainings in-house, outside, to build performers that have that potential into the high performers. But I do see what you're saying, and I feel like this could be the catalyst to something really great there.
And it's shifting the paradigm. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Instead of looking at the people who are not doing the right thing, it's like, yes, help them strengthen up their weaknesses, but you have this core 20%. Are you investing in making sure that they hit that 10th stratum?
Right. Even that 80%, what if you can improve their performance 3%?
Right.
Would an organization go for that?
Yeah.
Take 3%, project it out a few years.
Yeah.
If you're 3%,
Across the board.
you're in a different place.
Yeah. I mean, Christina, like when you don't know something, right? What do you do? Like when you're venturing into a new experience or
Right.
What do you do?
As a writer, I love my research. So, and it applies across the board in life.
Right.
Do research, try to figure out the answers myself, and sometimes that involves talking to other people, doing work online, but really looking actively to see how I can find a solution, or at least get me a little farther than where I am.
But you know what a majority of people do? Nothing. I don't know that.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'll just figure something else out. Or I'll go a different way.
Else, or, right.
Yeah, I'll go ask somebody
Yeah.
to help me. That there's a separator right there. So.
And there's also something to be said about the sphere of influence, where as you do have high performers and as you're trying to lift everybody, the effect it has overall in the organization as well.
Yeah.
That's true, right? When you see people kind of rising. Does that motivate?
Right, or you're picking up
Big time.
cues. Maybe I can try that. I saw they performed successfully in this meeting. Maybe I can pick up some of the techniques that they used.
Yeah, and a lot of the high performers that I've studied and I've watched, and is they realize the talent pool they have access to, and guess what they do? They're banging on the door. I need your help with this. I want to learn something, or teach me, show me, help me, but they're highly aware of who they have access to and what they want out of that person. And then they're also highly aware of how to give back too, because a lot of high performers are very aware of not just taking but also giving.
Great.
Awesome.
Great point.
Well, I want to thank you again for joining us today
Thanks for having me.
on
This is
Inside
fun.
Copy and Art. It was a lot of fun.
So much fun. Yes.
As you progress in your writing, we'd love to have you back so you could talk to us a little bit about. I'm sure our audience will be curious. Where's that book, Aaron?
What's next?
What's next?
Where can I find it? Yep.
But it feels like organizational kind of training is really cool. I
Yeah.
mean, Stephen Gould's lucky to have you. We were lucky to have you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Without further ado, this is Inside Copy and Art.